Is this the one that goes, talk about
Oh, yeah. Love machine. Yeah, that.
Rob, you hit that. Rob hits that high note like pretty on target.
It's
there.
like butter.
I hit
It's
it
like butter.
Yes, I love how like each week I'm always checking out what y'all are advertising on y'all shirts, and you got NASA and Balena.
Volcom. Yeah.
I can't see yours, Leonard. I can't see your writing on yours. Oh, there we go.
Volcom. I think it's a California surf brand, and then I have you know what, dude? We should. This is like. We should have paid sponsorship. Yeah. None of these are IoT.
I'm representing my kids' school, the Eagles.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully we can draw some donations for them.
I love that.
Right? Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Go Eagles.
Oh, man. Yeah. What's up, guys? What's up? IoT Coffee Talk, folks. Welcome. Thanks for joining.
It's back to school for our family. Today was the first day back.
Wow.
How is it?
It was good. I did drop off. I was up at 5 a.m. this morning and did drop off.
5 a.m.
Is it because it takes you 3 hours to get to the school?
I think I'm more excited than my kids are. So I woke up before my alarm went off and all that. Because I'm like, when they go back to school, that means Mama gets back on on a regimen, like with everything.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. That's awesome. So, just real quick plug for Elevate Our Kids. For our listeners, if you want to really address the digital divide, please check out Elevate Our Kids at www.elevateourkids.org and consider making a donation if it's part of your ESG program. Do it. Because it's all about equity, equality, and access, especially for those children who are, in underserved and unserved, and there's a lot of unserved communities. So, thank you.
Under-resourced.
Yep, that too. And I think it's given where things are going, it looks like we're going to have those resources and, that generosity from people who have to support folks who are in need. So anyway,
elevate those kids.
Those great message for back to school. Since
exactly.
These devices.
No kidding. Great timing, huh? We're getting better at this. I was like looking at some of our. Yeah, I was listening to some of our old, earlier episodes, and
episode 2, 1, 2, 3.
It's like, what the hell is this? But I personally, I love it because it's like a journal. Do you know what I'm saying? Journal of how we've evolved, all the crap that we went through since the pandemic. It's really fascinating to. It's just weird that we're like the Kardashians of IoT.
Wow, that just happened.
Wait a minute, you just put a negative spin on us. Hey.
Yeah, well, double whammy, right? IoT.
I think we need to really up-level Elevate Our Kids. We need to have a big event somehow.
We should.
Yeah, I think that some kind of, like, I know there's so many different ways to fundraise, but we know a lot of people in high places. It's like, we got to have a face-to-face live event, even if it's like in the spring of 2023. So we definitely, I'm open to ideas because we need something cool and
or
fun.
Even if it's this November in Austin, while we're all there for IoT World AI Summit.
Ooh, I wonder if we can squeeze into their little.
We're centrally located there in Central Texas with a lot of our folks.
That's true.
But you're right. We've all had experience.
When is that happening?
Working with other
IoT
organizations.
Yeah, in Austin, Texas.
Right.
Yeah.
You've probably had experience doing auctions to raise money, like with PTAs or larger events to raise money for school districts. And You have silent auctions. You have live auctions.
Yeah.
You have drinks flowing, which
Golf.
apparently helps people give their money more easily.
You could do golf charity, like go off site.
Yep. Charity golf tournament.
Those do really well.
Absolutely. But yeah, we need to take it to the next level, I think.
We'll talk offline, Rob, because that's a good way that's a good central location and we just got to get Marc in Texas. Marc, are you coming?
Why not? Yeah, my October, it's a bit hectic, but yeah, let me know the dates. And
I want to see Marc in Austin with a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
I've been there. I
Awesome.
already been there at the Southwest 2010, so 12 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And I got really amazed by a taxi that was a karaoke taxi.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome.
That's really
that was
cool.
incredible. And it's like a regular taxi, but it offers an extra service for the same price.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah.
So did you sing a song?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you have to.
I love it.
That's
awesome.
really, really fun. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
That's
so yeah,
cool.
I definitely talked up Elevator Kids yesterday briefly on a microphone with the T-Mobile folks
Awesome.
at an event in Bellevue. Well, and you know what? One of their VPs mentioned, Project 10 million before I did, so I just had to kind of jump in. But
get that plug in.
It was a perfect segue, because it was like, I just want to give you guys props for Project 10 million. We used it with Elevator Kids and then kind of went in there, and it made sense because one of the people on the panel, the whole panel was about smart cities, but one of the people on the panel was this woman who works for the city of Bellevue, Washington, and she's in charge of all their smart city efforts. I think she's the CTO, and we actually talked about how a city influences their school districts, and it actually turned into be a good discussion about, hey, we all dove into this COVID thing and kids had to go home. How did your city react to that? When you're providing services to your citizens. So yeah, it turned out to be a good discussion around that, and a real eye opener. We think of all this high tech cool stuff for smart cities, but there's a lot that cities provide to people, that different services and stuff that are super important.
Yeah. I mean, that's really cool. Yeah, I saw that post.
Hopefully not based on Google IoT Core, right?
Yeah. Speaking of things that we should talk about today, that's definitely one. And the other one is Amazon going live with the 5G private network, or the private 5G network thing. So, yeah. Hey, thanks for bringing up that sore topic for Google. Or maybe they don't care. It's going to be a sore topic for their customers, right?
Maybe they don't care.
They obviously don't. I mean,
it's a huge
classic.
Respect, actually, for Google, how they kill the projects. I mean, they deserve a lot of respect. How easy they say, hey.
They deserve a lot of what?
Respect. Because they kill projects like, hey, this doesn't work. The business case doesn't work, so let's kill it. And actually, probably a lot of companies.
Yeah.
They use the IoT stuff, the sidewalk stuff, their smart cities.
Yeah, but that's why IoT doesn't take off in that realm, right? This neo IoT stuff, and why the old school stuff, the guys that have been around a long time, they get all the business. It's not a friggin' project. It's not a fucking project, people. You don't experiment on customers.
Yeah.
This is the sick Silicon Valley mentality. This is the neo Silicon Valley mentality that's been shaped by all this, VC agile nonsense, man. I'm telling you, it's sickening. Yeah, of course. Who's gonna trust any of these brands when exactly what you said, Marc? They killed off a project. They killed off a business because they had customers. It's such the wrong attitude. I don't even know how we got here. Do you know what I'm saying? We're pumping a ton of money into companies and giving them tons of valuation for treating customers like their project. That means they're guinea pigs. You know what I'm saying? That is like but you called it their friggin' project, and they killed it because they're fail fast and fail often. Well, I was just thinking, there's that term, throw as much shit on the wall and see what sticks. Well, guess what? It's all shit. It doesn't matter if it sticks. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You tricked me, dude. I'm pissed. But you told it just like it is, man. You told it just like it is. They treat it like a project, and that's why they can't get out of anything other than the ad business. I mean, if you look at their financials, GCP is a money loser, man. They don't make any money, and somehow people think that they do just because the revenue growth is there. I was like, no, you don't have a viable business if you're not making profit.
The profit,
right? Especially in cloud. I mean, come on, think about the hypothesis that they apply to AWS. How come Google can't make that happen? Or they can't make it happen like Microsoft? They're killing. They're not killing it. Their profit margins are lower because they're going toward a cloud service model versus sticking with. They're making much more money on the license side. People just don't know it. Kind of like Oracle. Everyone was giving crap about Oracle for you didn't go to a public cloud. Larry Ellison knows what he's doing. He's not a dummy. You know what I'm saying? And so, anyway, it's like that's the problem.
Maybe I love it. Yeah, maybe here the question is why companies use like these IoT services instead of the infrastructure as a service. I mean, how many IoT companies are using Google Cloud instead of Google IoT Core? Probably, I don't know. I don't have those numbers. But probably a lot of companies are using more AWS infrastructure than the AWS IoT services available.
That's
because
interesting.
It's maybe easier for engineers to set up, and you don't want to get a lock-in for these companies. You want to have as well the availability to change to other services if you need it. So,
wow, right there.
This is what a question to ask.
Little good information there from Marc about lock-in.
And you know what, Leonard, you were talking about shit. Well, the shit talk is making the flies coming into Marc and bothering him right now.
Oh,
the flies are coming in.
Dude, those are awesome, man. But you know what?
Something super.
Yeah.
Wow. But they don't care. They don't care.
They don't care. They're
I will
still
try to kill one live for you.
Love it. Yeah. That's an interesting comment you made there, Marc, about PaaS services versus IaaS services. Obviously, all these hyperscale clouds want you to take dependencies on their PaaS services like Google IoT Core.
Yeah.
Because then you're locked in, just like if you took dependencies on Lambda at AWS, and stuff like that, because you'll never break free. As Marc put it, why aren't they just uploading VMs so that they're portable across cloud, so you can have cloud lock-in? It's. I remember a long time ago when that light bulb first came on for me when I was working in the Azure team and we were working with startups. And I remember talking to this one startup, and I was kind of, I wasn't arguing. I was like, so why aren't you using all these easy to use, platform as a service offerings we have in Azure that would help you get to market faster? And he goes, you're right, but I would be locked into Azure forever if I did that. And I can't count on you guys for, and it goes to when it's your business and your product and you're taking a dependency on another business for your future, that's a risky proposition. Lots of people do it. But to Marc's point, if you just do, it takes longer, but if you do the VM thing, or containers, cloud native, then you're portable across clouds, on-prem, wherever. And so over the long run, it's safer. And so it's a really interesting point, taking dependencies on IoT Core or Azure IoT Hub or whatever. You get to market faster, but then they've got you.
Yeah.
How much that costs, right?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Now, a lot of times these PaaS services are cheaper than uploading a VM. So, you're always weighing costs and portability and flexibility all the time with these kind of things.
Yeah.
And how fast do you get to market? I totally remember meeting with the GCP IoT Core people when they were in alpha stage, because we were building. I was being Santa Clara every week, and we're building Lumada at Hitachi, and we went over to Mountain View to meet with their team to show us what they had. And basically they took, kind of the lifeblood of GCP is this pub sub thing they have, that when you think of like MQTT or stuff like that, publish, subscribe. And it's a system that works throughout all their cloud globally. It's pretty cool. They were basically building IoT Core on top of that, which makes sense. IoT is really just, moving data from one place to another. And so they were really excited about it. They were excited. I forgot the woman's name. Obviously Google Clouds struggled with the enterprise. The enterprise never took them seriously. And so I remember at the time, I forgot the name of the woman. She came over from VMware. And so she was going to get them into the enterprise, and then that didn't work. And now we've got the guy from Oracle, to get them in the enterprise. And we'll see. I think he's doing a little better job. But, I remember when they launched their IoT thing, I remember looking at it. It's like, well, it's kind of got the basics, and they started talking about edge and a bunch of stuff. But then there wasn't a lot of there. And then I was surprised when I heard them acquired Xively, and I had some friends that worked from Xively, and then all of a sudden, friends of mine from Xively are now vice presidents at Google, and I remember having conversations with them. And it was like, are you buying their technology or their brain power? And it was really their brain power. It's not like Xively was an awesome IoT platform or anything.
It started, and I went to their event, and it was at CES 2018, right? Was it 18 or 1918? One of those CES. Yeah, that's when the announcement was made, and they had a nice little.
But I think what they were doing is, there's always this notion you can be a smart software developer and architect, but you don't understand the space that you're playing in. And so I'm thinking they acquired Xively to get the know-how about IoT. Mm-hmm. But then I was surprised only a few years later, not even a few years later, I talked to the same friends, and now they're AI vice presidents. And I went to a Google Cloud event that they had in Seattle. And this was several years ago. They never said IoT ever anywhere at the event. All they talked about was AI and other cloud services. And I was like, I guess they must have killed it already. So I was really surprised to hear this announcement, because I thought it was dead a long time ago. But yeah, I do feel bad about the guinea pig customers who trusted Google, took a dependency on their services, and now they're getting screwed. And now they're having to scramble to move their technology somewhere else.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, for applications that they probably thought that they would just deploy and fire and forget for whatever 2 decades.
Well, this leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth.
Right. I would say this just
great way to lose trust.
It's just another stain, and when these things start to pile up, when these things start to pile up,
pile?
I mean, I can't.
In a pile. I don't know. This is like the doo-doo episode. What the hell?
Why do we keep having those? Like, piles. I mean, we're getting bad, so it's really bad. But I agree with you. I feel like we're going through these cycles where we're shooting ourselves in the foot as an industry, and we're treating these enterprises, these business customers, like pieces of crap. And we're wondering why we are not growing, why we've lost trust in the industry, and why we have to shift to AI discussions from IoT to AI, because we're trying to reinvent our marketing wheel to make it sound like we're moving forward. We're an emerging tech company, and it just is.
You're chasing the wrong thing. Number one, you're chasing just investment dollars, and you're chasing some sort of exit once you get it, and there's no focus on customer.
Does anyone think
on value? It's like pathetic.
Yeah.
Does anyone think that these stuff like this, is there a correlation between these kind of things happening in commercial software and driving people towards open source, open platforms, open APIs? Do you feel like there's any kind of connection, or are you just, because I wonder when people go, I don't want to get burned again, so I'm going to use all this free open source technology that's not owned by a company. I don't know how many people think that way or not. Maybe it's a small group.
I think maybe more down market because they're smaller and it seems like it's affordable and I could go to market faster. But the enterprises, they just keep going back to their foundations, which is I need secure, I need to keep things under wraps. I need to have some management and some control.
I think it's stability.
I think I think it's a pipe dream there. They want that flexibility, but they just can't get it because they have to put the security of their company and their business first and foremost.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you use open source tools, you will need to host them somewhere. So imagine that you host them on a service that gets deprecated as well. Right, or has security vulnerabilities, the service, the infrastructure. So, it's not that easy. But I think, I hate the lock-in, as I said at the beginning, and I think the only solution is to go to open source tools and to have a team who owns that product and knows how to manage it and scale it. If not, it's really hard.
I say maybe more on the developer side. Those guys are pushing back. They're definitely moving more towards open, and it's the corporate side that's saying, "Hey, we got to have things." So there's a little bit of a battle I think going on internally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and developers don't have budget. The business does, right. And if the business sits there and goes, and the developer, after all this wrangling and arguing and debate, walks up to the business guy and says, "Oh, by the way, I need $1 million to migrate us off of GCP IoT Core." The guy's going to go, "What?
Not happening.
What happened?" And they're never going to trust the developer again. The developer doesn't rule the world. I think that's a delusion. It really is.
Developers totally rule the world. Didn't you see The Matrix?
He always brings that. Yeah, but it's still the architect. It's the architect, man.
I love that scene with the architect. Actually, that's a good scene in that.
It's kind of mind-blowing stuff, but at the end of the day, it's the business constituent that owns everything.
And don't you think it's depressing how Google treat IoT projects? I think they created this Android IoT project like 10 years ago. Never happened. They also tried to create this embedded Linux operating system, based on Android as well. That never happened as well. Yeah. Now this thing, then Nest. I don't know. It's not growing. When they sold Motorola to acquire Nest, I was expecting that they would do more connected home devices or something else. But out of these. I was about to say Alexa, but out of these Google whatever for home, I haven't seen anything relevant.
Yeah,
at least
they placed their bets on the smart home, and smart home industry has been piecemealed for years, and no one's really making money on it except for a couple of little equipment vendors, and they're making money on hardware.
Yeah, and I think it's just a great proof that you can't run your business commercializing. Literally going direct to market with a freaking project. Google Glass is a perfect example. And, we're picking on Google, but there's so many companies that do this. Let's
keep clicking on Google.
Okay. Keep picking on them. It is kind of ridiculous because especially the Wall Street types and a lot of analysts, they gave, and definitely a lot of consultants, they drink that Kool-Aid and they evangelize this stuff. And then it poisons the mind. When you start to preach this stuff, you prove to the world that you have no regard for value. what you have a regard for is valuation. Not value. They're two different things. And revenue is not valuation. Profit is not valuation. Those revenue, profit, real things. GCP not making a profit is a real thing. Its valuation is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
There's this notion of grit and doubling down on things that I feel like Google did not have here. It was very anemic. I think they quit when things weren't just great. They give up too easily, because obviously Microsoft and Amazon just doubled down and tripled down and went all in. And, that's what I remember noticing when I was working at Microsoft. I remember when things got really bad in 2008. Remember the economic downturn and Wall Street blew up everything and all the housing stuff. And it was a lot of companies were kind of pulling back and we're going to hunker down. And I remember, I know people like to make fun of Steve Ballmer, but he's like, this is when we're going to double down and take market share from everybody. Yeah. And Microsoft just went even harder at things when the world was in its most pain. And it was interesting. And they just built more buildings on our campus. And I was just like, wow, this is so interesting, because everyone else is kind of hunkering down for a rough ride and they hope they make it to the other side. And Microsoft's like, oh, we're just going to go crush even more. And I think I learned a lesson from that about going all in. And then when we built this Azure IoT thing, little by little, we were way behind. Clearly, we were way behind where Rick was with ThingWorx. But it was like, oh, when they said we're gonna just go all in $4 or $5 billion, and just whereas, which is the opposite of what Google did. With GCP, they're like kind of barely dipping their toe in the water. Oh, do you think we can make it? Microsoft's like, no, we're going to just take over the world. We're going to own this thing, and we're going to. Now, obviously, you have to have a lot of money, but it's also just a lot of guts and just committing and going for it, and see who makes it out the other side.
Well, I was just thinking, and during those times, the Wall Street's expectations are pretty low, anyways. So as long as, if you're large, you have great cash. You have a huge hoard of cash. It's probably easier to do that than for other companies that are not as well positioned and don't have that kind of scale. Why overexert yourself on the performance side when you can basically ride along as everything is kind of tanking, but just stay a little bit ahead so that you're a haven, like you're a what do you call it? You're a value
safe harbor.
Yeah, safe harbor. Yeah. Too early in the morning, dude. It's like people don't realize how hard it is to think this early in the morning.
It's really funny about how things played out. A lot of these IoT platforms we saw were developer focused. They said, we need you to come write a bunch of code to make this work.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have struggled. I feel like the best thing I saw come out of Microsoft is their IoT Central platform, where you just go in there and it's like a SaaS thing and it's drag and drop and easy to use. And it was ultimately that came from an acquisition they did from an Italian company called Solera a long, long time ago. And after spending $4 or $5 billion, it turns out the thing that's getting the most traction is the thing that's easy to use. And it didn't need to cost $5 billion to make that, because what that shows is the types of things that were winning were things that are easy drag and drop to use, like the things.io or Losant or things like that. It turns out those are what people want. You can't forget about, you've got to make it easy for customers. And whenever, every time I look at all these other platforms, and it's like pages and pages of code that I have to write to make it work. Well, guess what? Customers don't all write code. They want the value. They want to push a button and have things work. And so there's certainly some lessons learned there in approaches to going after this market.
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought was really a red flag for me this was really evident when Rob, you and I were in Barcelona for IoT Solutions World Congress, and that was like the first time I met you face to face, Marc. Was they had this attitude that everything was going to go up in the cloud, and that they were going to harvest all the data, they were going to do all the high value, analytics. And their whole play was on AI. So I think there were a number of issues. Number one, the level of expectations that they had set for the AI stuff was way ahead of the curve. And not meaning that was a smart play. It was they didn't read the market well. Number two, to think that IoT is all about the cloud is stupid. It's not all about the cloud. In fact, as it gets closer to the cloud, it's less relevant. It has less function value, actually. And that's something that I've started to realize. Well, I realized back then because that was my assessment. I said, no, these people, they don't understand that this is not about cloud. This is all about the edge.
It's not just less value. It's you lose context. That's like the further out in that cloud, you lose the contextual information and intelligence that you would use for that data.
Right. And the amount of fidelity that you're going to get at the level of, aggregation that happens at the cloud is incremental. I mean, you already get kind of signals from a lot of systems that are already out there. You're not going to get the kind of detail that really makes a difference for your business that's happening out at the edge. And that's where the whole cloud discourse came down into IoT and just, I think a lot of the leading IT analyst firms are at fault for doing this because they were so peddling the cloud narrative, It was just ridiculous. So everyone thought everything has to go to the cloud. Well, what do we know now? Everyone knows everything's going to be at the edge, and you want to keep it there. You don't even want to stick it up in the cloud. There's only certain things, functions, maybe administrative stuff, certain capabilities that you want out there, data that you want out there. But I think that's where they got it wrong. And
remember when we had that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Marc.
Yeah.
No, it's very short. Just to rebate Leonard, but I think it makes sense. But in some use cases, in some other use cases, it doesn't make sense in the cloud.
When we had that survey and we asked, it was like 8,000 plus business users and decision makers about that, we were asking them about what they're doing now and their plans. And more than half of them, they talked about their plans for cloud versus edge. And it's a hybrid approach that they're all expecting, more than half of them. And they know that there's going to be a mix out there. We can't just sit there and rely on the cloud for all of our needs. And businesses are starting to understand that. And I think that where they need the most help, though, is understanding the use cases. Why? What's your checklist? Why does it need to go to the cloud? Are we using it? What do we need now? What's real time? What do we need to act on right now? And so they don't quite have their arms around, and it's not necessarily use case. It's more the application itself and what's it going to do for my business?
Yeah. There's going to be elements that make sense in your IoT systems architecture. Yeah. But everything going up to the cloud, including data, no. In fact, less and less of it's going to go up to the cloud.
So what do you mean by everything?
Everything means all data is extracted and transmitted over very expensive connectivity up to the cloud, and all critical functions of your IoT are going to be calculated and analyzed in the cloud and then pushed down. Which makes no sense to the edge, to your business. Your business doesn't happen in a friggin' data center. It happens at the edge.
You're defining the metering use case.
The what?
Right? The metering, gas metering, water metering.
Metering. Yes.
Whatever.
You're defining that use case right now.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely monitoring.
It just sends us some data. Send it over to the cloud. Cloud is calculating the next invoice you have to pay, your quarterly invoice or whatever, and they ship it to you and charge it on your bank account. This is all done in the cloud, nothing in the edge.
But that's not. But you have to make a distinction between, the IoT part of it and their back office systems part of it. You can't conflate the two. Their business systems, all the stuff that does the calculations, all that stuff, that's not IoT. Yeah. That's like friggin' ERP. That's their business systems. I mean, your problem is this, man. You're starting to call everything IoT, and that's where you get wrong.
If we were to do that, it would be like if we were talking about the manufacturing sector, it would be manufacturing execution systems. It would be robotic systems, and all of these things that really they're not IoT, but they have maybe some kind of sensing. Or a lot of them have sensor networks or sensor systems, but it's not IoT specifically. And I think that's probably one of the things that if you think about it, vertical by vertical, industry by industry, every one of these industries, they have their own systems, software, back office. And that's that piece. And then where are we putting all the data? Is it close to the edge? Is it close to our business or our location? Or are we pushing it out for some reason? We're storing it for some reason. And then, how do you pull the pieces together?
You guys
but it's metering, not an IoT project.
You guys are beating up on Marc, and Marc is right. Listen, you just use the right tools for the right job. Sometimes the cloud is the perfect place to put things. It just is for things that have views over large
or mass data that doesn't
and you're right, you don't have to the way I look at obviously kind of like Leonard, I'm a big fan of Mr. Drucker, and I really think his simple view is the best way to execute something that looks like IoT, but you don't always have to call it right. Well, right, how do you improve something? How do you manage it? We measure it. We use IoT to measure things. You've probably heard the theory jobs to be done.
Yeah.
So right now in the world, there are jobs to be done, and those jobs are done by people. When you look to digitally transform and you say, well, what's the digital equivalent? People go through these stages. They go through the first stage, which is digitization, where they just make a digital copy of what the person was doing. And then you have digitalization, where you transform, well, now that it's digital, is there a better way to do this than just copying the human version, and that kind of thing. So when IoT, like the meter reader thing, just, simple use case, the job to be done, I need to view how much electricity your house or your apartment is using. And I need to and so a person jumps over the fence into your backyard, looks at that, writes it down, and goes back and enters it into a system, their system of record, SAP, Oracle, whatever it is, back at their company. The next stage is, could we use the power of wireless and have a little meter send the data over wireless, and that started happening all the way back in the 90s.
And Rob had trucks that would just drive down the street.
Yes, that's right.
Read.
You're right. That was the baby step. As trucks go down, they could sense. And then they went all the way back. And but they were just, all they were doing is, it's what's the job to be done? What is the task? And we didn't call it IoT. It was just things got easier for us. All we're doing is moving data around, right? Mm-hmm. A person is entering it, or the machine's talking to you. And sometimes the cloud makes sense. And sometimes, before there was the cloud, well, actually we used to call the cloud, if you're an architect, you always refer to the internet as the cloud or the network. It didn't refer to public clouds like AWS.
Or they say the data center.
Yeah. And so people had their own data centers, and I used to have to build stuff, and we'd use something called a reverse proxy to allow you to have data come into a corporate enterprise, but be able to get through using normal DNS pathways across the internet.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is just boring stuff. I think what's really interesting is what happened.
Oh my God.
Right there. I think this is the really interesting news. How this sociopath Adam Newman just got $350 million check from Andreessen Horowitz. Hello. How does this happen? How does this happen?
Well,
this guy is a sociopath.
I missed this story.
It makes a lot of sense, man.
There you go. It makes sense. Okay, everybody, we're gonna put Leonard in the same company as Mr. Newman here. Did anybody see the TV show? Was it on Apple TV Plus called We Crashed? To see the
I couldn't finish it. I couldn't.
Was it a documentary on WeWork?
No, they made it like a real drama, like a TV show. So they drama. Anne Hathaway was in it, and God, what's the guy's? It was crazy. You're right. The guy thought he was Jesus or something, and all the insane shit that they did at WeWork, and how they blew billions, and tried to create the illusion that it was a high-tech company. No, it wasn't. It's just a co-working place.
Yeah, and
just real estate.
And you know what the crazy thing is? If you look at the Andreessen statement, he says that this guy revolutionized the way we work. And it's like, no, they had those type of rent a office type of businesses for a long time. He didn't revolutionize anything. He just put it on he put like a website together.
I highly recommend people watch We Crashed. It's a dramatization of what happened. But, what's his name? Scott, whatever, the guy in New York, he was a professor at NYU Stern Business School. He was the guy who threw the red flag, the earliest person to say, hey, this WeWork thing is a scam and it's just total BS. And I remember reading his stuff and I was just like, oh my God, they've like really fooled the whole world. And also, who do you think created the beginning of what I would think of as the downfall of SoftBank? WeWork. It's because what's his name at SoftBank went all in and bet on this guy.
Man.
Yeah. Kool-Aid.
And SoftBank has lost billions because of this. It's crazy. So, I don't know what to feel about, because I've always been a big fan of Marc Andreessen. And so I don't know how to think about Marc Andreessen backing this crazy guy. Obviously, the whole internet was blowing up yesterday. Everybody talking about the insanity of this. And they're like, what is going on with Andreessen Horowitz that they would back this megalomaniac guy, Yeah. Oh my gosh.
The crazy thing, if I'm not mistaken, what's the guy's name? Adam Newman?
Adam Newman.
Right? Yeah. The assets that they're looking at leveraging for this business are properties that he bought. And the claim is that they're going to somehow revolutionize the rental market, right?
Yeah, you know what?
The residential rental market, it's like, this just looks like a way for you to make a return on probably some bad real estate investments that you made and get capitalized through Andreessen. And then get some foolish investors to dump money into this thing because of two jokers. One that is an established joker and one that's starting to establish himself as a joker.
Established joker.
I mean, isn't he the guy? He started like freaking Outhouse, right?
Yeah. There's other companies that got caught up. Speaking of real estate, you started hearing about these pseudo tech real estate firms that popped up several years ago. Redfin, Zillow, Compass.
Oh yeah.
And they're spending tons of money. And they're hiring all the best real estate agents, and they've got thousands of people with a data lake doing AI, trying to say that it's magic. And now all those companies are crashing and burning right now because the real estate market's going to shit. And it turns out the emperor has no clothes at all. It's just real estate, dude. Get over it.
Well,
remember, a lot of them were buying houses. A lot of them were like, you push a button and we'll make an offer and we'll just buy your house from you directly. And I don't know if it was Redfin or Zillow who went and bought tons of houses, and then they were struggling to flip them because they're like, oh, this could be great.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. A lot of stuff.
Well, I think I only popped in for maybe 30 minutes yesterday. So I missed the internet yesterday. I need to catch up.
What?
Really?
Internet.
You missed the internet.
Yeah, well, everyone should read up on the stuff. It's pretty.
Should read it up. That was the biggest news yesterday.
People gosh. It sounds like this ridiculousness.
Yeah. So, hey, Marc. Okay, Amazon private 5G networks. What do you think, man?
It's all about private.
We know you love cloud, and cloud is IoT. I get it, dude.
No.
But what about this?
I don't love cloud. But no, okay, cloud. Just to I don't know. I not only love cloud. My heart goes to other technologies like embedded. But I think there is no silver bullet on IoT. So there are a lot of different use cases, as Rob described before. Having said that, I think in the US you have the CBRS network that it's or range that I think a lot of companies and operators are going to use, right? And it looks like Amazon published that they want to use these again, and this is super interesting. And it's sad that at least in Europe, the lobby is probably forced to not allow companies and people to have like a 3.7 gigahertz or something like that free band for industries and so on. So it's like an added value that you have in your country that probably can enable a lot of interesting business in the industry or something like that. But not sure. It's too early probably and I don't have a crystal ball to see what's next here.
Yeah, Germany has an equivalent to CBRS, and so does Sweden. But you're right, it's fragmented.
But it was like maybe 3 years ago when all the CBRS stuff, and they were really promising to sell through the carriers or direct to the enterprise. The direct to the enterprise they don't have the know-how to sell to the enterprise. And so, the growth that they were really expecting hasn't happened on the CBRS side in the States. Now, I'm not familiar with Germany or anywhere else, but I think because they were kind of splitting down the middle, we're going to sell direct to the enterprise, and we're also going to work with the carriers and develop our own partnership model there, that they kind of were going in two different directions, and they should have mixed the sell direct to the enterprise side, because they didn't have the sales force to even go in and do that, or people that knew how to do that or understand the business side of it.
Yeah.
But it's funny how AWS do things, right? I think they presented this LoRaWAN network like a couple of years ago, right? Sidewalk.
Yeah.
And they say, and by the way, all the Alexas have this already in there. So we have a huge network all around the world. Like, oops, what?
Oops. we have huge helium all around the world.
Well, I did get an email, was it yesterday or the day before, from a vendor that was touting water metering and using the helium network for that. And so I was like, check, Marc. There goes another one.
Wow.
But on the private wireless side, though, one thing that's happened over this last quarter was the carriers had their expectations and forecasts internally, and they've lowered those expectations. So, another probably area that they were expecting a lot more growth hasn't taken place. So they had to get on that.
I mean, think about that. How much overshooting there is. I think we overshoot to so much, and that it's probably a better bet to undershoot and then react to any kind of growth. Be ready, but don't overcommit.
But chip shortage is not helping anyway.
Especially if you're forecasting.
We see a lot of customers writing at Velena like, hey, what hardware can we use? There is nothing, it's available. So we have a big project to build.
That's really amazing.
My husband just embarked on a pretty big project for the 100,000 plus acre ranch that he's involved with in West Texas. And they went out and they finally bought the systems that track feed levels, the levels inside the feed bins that they have. And they went out and they did a full installation and whatnot. And that was their holdup, weeks and weeks and weeks. We don't have, chips, it's impacting every single rollout. And so how are we going to scale when we're still dealing with chips shortages? And so I don't and that one was a big project. And, the vendor was going to make a good amount of money for this particular one mass ranch, but they don't have the equipment available. So they're just going to go once it comes in, as they roll in, but I don't know what the timing is. And I know folks are all talking about it, but important part of the goal is to start to develop inside the States. We need to start developing our chips here. What are we going to do? What are we going to do about this? Because it doesn't look like we've solved the chip shortage crisis yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, the CHIPS Act is not going to have any impact for 2-3 years. So, I mean, there's going to be some. I think maybe some of the U.S. Semiconductor manufacturers are going to maybe expand some existing sites and stuff like that, especially like legacy node capacity. But most of this stuff is not going to come online for a while.
Yeah. Or Texas Instruments and Dallas DFW.
Yeah. Stephanie, what you do in the interim to fix your problem is kind of like the old Amazon Mechanical Turk. You just need to send little high school kids or something out there to look at the feed levels, and then they write it down. That's back to
old school. Yeah.
That's jobs to be done, right?
My husband has been doing that himself.
It starts with people, and then we go from there. But sometimes when the chips are gone, who is the original computer? Humans are computers. NASA, what do you think NASA called people back in the Apollo time? They referred to people as computers. Because that was
what's happening right now? Well, Texas has been in a massive drought. Well, Texas and Southwest Texas has gotten a just ton of rain from that monsoon that kind of hits New Mexico. They always get that piece of that. Yeah. And so there's mass flooding. So my husband's in West Texas at that ranch. He said, you can't even get on the roads. That chalky white road. If you get out, you're stuck. So they said there's so much water and so much flooding that the Pecos River, Rob, you'll appreciate this, is flowing backwards. It's a lot of rain.
Whoa.
So what do? You can't check feed. You can't check feed when the roads are bad. So yeah.
When the Pecos River is flowing backwards, it's like that movie Tenet, where you're going backwards from Christopher Nolan. Oh my gosh, that's craziness. Yeah, you're right. Because you're right. The Southwest has my daughter at ASU. Arizona has. They look forward to the monsoon season because it's the only rain they get all year. Yeah. I didn't realize it reached all the way to West Texas. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? So you have these fabs that are being, these manufacturing sites being set up in Arizona and Texas. And those are two states that are currently completely abusing groundwater. So the aquifers that you're talking about before, you cannot replenish those for like thousands of years. And once those things are gone,
we have so many people in the surrounding area north of us, Comfort, Centerpoint, they get a lot of their water from the Guadalupe River that runs downstream. Kerrville has not put in water restrictions during a mass drought. And so there's people that are coming together because people in Centerpoint and Comfort, their wells are dry. They have no water. And I'm like, I don't understand why Kerrville, the county, even the city of Kerrville is not implementing water restrictions. It makes no sense. I'm like, how many other counties are doing this?
Those people are asleep at the wheel and they should be fired and replaced quickly. You can't let this kick the can down the road with water. We just went to level 2, tier 2 emergency yesterday. It was breaking news.
Where in Seattle?
No, Colorado River, the Southwest.
Colorado. Oh yeah. It's like
they just went to tier 2 restrictions. They just cut Arizona's water supply by 20%.
Yeah.
It had already been cut previously with tier 1. Utah, Arizona. Oh my gosh. Oh, but who's Nevada? Guess who's not getting restricted though by this?
Wyoming.
California.
of California.
Why is California not being cut like the United States?
You know what pisses me off? There's some folks in my neighborhood are putting pools in. It's like,
do you see what's happening?
The hell is your problem?
How many episodes have we talked about the water resource and how it keeps getting more and more and more of an issue? What's going on, Marc, in and around your, because this is in the States, it's becoming, I think that we're hitting a point of no return.
Think about it. Yeah, we're talking about friggin' water.
Right.
You know?
Fresh water is the number one richest resource.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It is. And we're sleepwalking into oblivion as people go about their lives every day, acting like everything's fine.
Yeah, and then they're raping the groundwater. That's never going to come back, or not going to come back in time.
How strict is it, Marc, in Europe and in and around Spain?
Yeah, it's the same situation here. So it's a big draw. Everything is super dry, and maybe this week it's gonna rain a bit. But yeah, like a lot of fires as well. It's summer.
Yeah,
so
it's
a big problem. But yeah, hey, in the US you have Pepsi. Why do you need water?
What?
Water for the fish, right?
We have Pepsi. We have Coke.
Water for the fish.
Yeah, but you guys have like Perrier and.
That's right.
We have wine.
Yeah.
I'll take a vino, but we need some water.
Did you see the picture of the Rhone River dried up?
That's
means
scary.
Like no friggin' Rieslings. It's like basically they're going to become a mass exporter of like raisins. That's going to be their new economy.
We're going to have to identify these other galaxy systems so we can steal their water.
Yeah, water stores. We need to build that.
Horrible.
Yeah. But you're right. That river there, the Rhone River is. I mean, that's not just for. It's a commercial waterway with shipping going up and down. That's like saying in the U.S. if the Mississippi River just decided to dry up the same way.
Yeah.
Hello, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
You're right. We've been talking about water for years.
Or we have such receding, ocean water that the Intercoastal Highway is now officially closed. Right. Everything goes around to the Gulf, all the way around Florida, all the way up the eastern seaboard.
Yeah.
What would we do?
Yeah.
Massive desalination.
Jeez. Okay. So this is super.
This is how we drink water in Barcelona, actually.
It's gone. It's
really?
empty.
Yeah, we drink water from the sea.
From the sea, the desalination plants.
Yeah, we have massive desalinizators and factories.
Yeah.
We're going to have those everywhere.
Right.
Like crazy.
Yeah, well, see,
just like you said, Leonard, obviously the CHIPS Act is going to take a few years before we even notice anything. It takes a long time and a lot of energy to build these desalination plants. They need to be starting them all today and breaking ground all along the Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, and the Gulf of Mexico. Right. They need to be all in.
Do you know what? Yeah, I agree with you. And there's one bright spot. California.
Yeah.
We're like right next to the ocean. So we are going to be the future exporter of the most precious resource in the world.
Texans will figure it out first, so
get after it. Yes. Because right now California is ground zero for drought.
Yes.
But human ingenuity can flip it, but you have to just take action. A lot of people, I'll do it next week. Oh, we'll get to it. We'll have a meeting about it.
We won't have it next week.
There is no next week, right? You're right.
Yeah. All right, that was fun, guys. Wow. This is a very dramatic episode.
Should we cut in?
Well, welcome to the jungle.
Welcome to the jungle.
Yes. But you know what? Nice. It's serious because we care about really serious things, which is a lot of times why you see us kind of bashing people who are spending all their time on the metaverse and stuff like that, while the whole planet is on fire and there's no water, but we're going to work on the metaverse instead. What a bunch of bullshit. real problems to solve in this world, and it takes a lot of brain power and action, and we should be working on that instead of the next VR goggles for you to lose yourself in another planet.
Yeah, and it all starts with whining and complaining like what we're doing right now. So
we're a bunch of whiners and complainers.
Yeah.
Well, we are not one to just bitch and moan. We are those that we come up with some ideas and some recommendations too.
We're YouTubers, damn it.
Yeah, YouTube's going to say that.
Experts, influencers.
Oh crap, YouTube's owned by Google. They're going to shut us down after we bash GCP today.
We will need to move to Twitch.
Maybe we should be on Twitch.
Yeah, maybe. Then we can gamify ourselves.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
Okay, who wants to take us out?
I'm never good at that.
Okay.
You're good at that, Leonard.
Me? Okay. Hey, so guys, thanks for hanging out with us. We really appreciate your attention. If you made it this far, holy crap, that's amazing. We learned a lot of stuff today. I don't remember everything that we did. Rob's usually really good at doing that, but you know what you listen to, so I'm not going to remind you. But we will be back next week with another exciting episode of IoT Coffee Talk. And remember, be real about the digital divide, okay? And yeah, don't listen to that nonsense. Be real about the digital divide. Please check out Elevate Our Kids at www.elevateourkids.org. And also make sure to like, subscribe, share your thoughts on www.iotcoffeetalk.com and buy one of those things. I will tell you right now, even though that has that electrical, shock thing going on, it's still really hard to kill a fly with that. So buyer beware. You still have to have kung fu skills to sneak up on a fly and whack it. But it does help, and it's kind of fun. It electrifies the whole experience. So we will see you next week.
Adios.
Take care, guys.
Bye. Adios.